No one made more money. No one got richer from the Madoff Ponzi scheme than Jeffrey Picower did, not even Madoff.
I had a very special relationship with the big four clients, all right? Picower was a little bit different.
Now, at 67 years old, Picower is mysteriously dead. His wife, Barbara, says she found him at the bottom of the swimming pool.
Believe it or not, the man who profited most from the Madoff scandal was not Madoff himself, but a man named Jeffry Picower. This is the tale of the enigmatic individual who amassed a $7 billion fortune through the Madoff Ponzi scheme. Mr. Picower was known to be a highly reclusive businessman, with little information available regarding his early life. It is known that Mr. Picower's origins lie in a middle-class Jewish family in the Bronx, New York. It is reported that Jeffrey Picower's father, a Russian immigrant, earned a livelihood by manufacturing and selling women's headwear. Jeffrey Picower established a successful career as a professional lawyer and accountant, beginning with the sale of tax shelters to affluent individuals. In the early stages of his professional pursuits, Jeffrey Picower made his initial investment in a fraudulent enterprise, not the Madoff Ponzi scheme, but rather a Ponzi scheme operated by Miss Adela Holzer. This scheme, run by Ms. Holzer, claimed to provide annual returns of 50% by means of investments in foreign business ventures. In 1976, Jeffrey Picower invested a total of $616,000 with Miss Adela Holzer, a fateful decision that ultimately led to financial loss. Several years later, the fraudulent Ponzi scheme orchestrated by Miss Holzer collapsed, and Jeffrey Picower was able to recover only $67,000 of his initial investment. Interestingly, during this period, Jeffrey Picower also began to invest in another infamous figure on Wall Street, Mr. Ivan Boisky, who ultimately pleaded guilty to charges of insider trading.
In America, one of the great things about this nation is that we can seek profit, and I'm proud of that.
Not all of Jeffrey Picower's investments were of questionable ethics, as evidenced by his participation in the legitimate venture of Alaris Medical Systems in the early 1990s. This investment was rewarded when the company was sold for $2 billion, resulting in a $1 billion personal gain for Jeffrey Picower. In the latter half of the 1970s, concurrent with the demise of the Adela Holzer Ponzi scheme, Picower made his initial investment with Bernie Madoff. Picower came to learn of the Madoff Fund through a fortuitous connection, his sister's spouse, who happened to be employed by the same organization as Bernie Madoff. Throughout the subsequent decades, Jeffrey Picower persisted in his investment with Bernie Madoff, having placed a total of $600 million into the fund over time. In 1998, Picower began withdrawing money from the account, which on paper had grown to be worth multiple billions. Another tactic that Picower used to profit off the Madoff Ponzi scheme was to have fake losses created on his account. He would make calls to high-ranking employee Annette Bongiorno, asking her to create fake losses on his account as a way to lower his tax bill. The amount of money Picower withdrew from the Madoff Fund was staggering. He consistently withdrew hundreds of millions of dollars, with 1 year's total surpassing $1 billion. At one point, virtually all of the new money being raised by the fund was being paid out to Picower immediately. While the frequent and substantial withdrawals made by Picower may have been frustrating for Madoff, he was ultimately forced to allow them due to his dependence on Picower. In times of financial crisis, Picower would often inject large sums of money into the Ponzi scheme in order to bail out Madoff and keep the fraud going. One example of Picower rescuing Madoff occurred in 2005 during the collapse of a $450 million hedge fund named Bayou. In 2005, the Bayou CEO, Samuel Israel, pled guilty to running a Ponzi scheme. This news story caused the raising of new funds for the Madoff Ponzi scheme to slow down, and also caused money to start flowing out faster. Madoff was down to only $13 million left in his Ponzi scheme's bank account, with withdrawal requests totaling $100 million. Madoff called on Picower to inject some cash into the Ponzi scheme, and Picower deposited $125 million just in time for Madoff to make good on the withdrawal requests. The year 2008 marked the unraveling of the Madoff Ponzi scheme, an event that occurred concurrent with the deterioration of the global economy, brought about by other fraudulent actors on Wall Street, who were responsible for the housing market crisis.
When housing prices fell and higher interest rates kicked in, homeowners couldn't keep up with their payments.
During this period, unscrupulous mortgage brokers, such as Countrywide Financial, led by the infamous Angelo Mozillo, engaged in unethical practices, such as selling homes to individuals who were unable to afford them and providing mortgages that were not fully understood by the borrowers.
Every one of them was turned down for a home loan by 3 different lenders. I'm with Countrywide, and I got them all approved. All approved. All approved.
Investment banks such as Lehman Brothers would acquire these bad loans, bundle them into securities, receive AAA ratings for these securities from S&P and Moody's before selling them to investors on Wall Street. In reality, these bundled mortgage securities should have been rated similarly to junk bonds.
Mozillo expressed his true feelings about the dangerous subprime mortgages he was peddling. He wrote, "In all my years in the business, I have never seen a more toxic product."
When mortgage borrowers began defaulting on their loans, large investment banks such as AIG and Merrill Lynch found themselves struggling. The investment giant Lehman Brothers was forced to file for bankruptcy.
Brought down by bad mortgage investments, Lehman, which has 25,000 employees, will be liquidated.
Panic swept through Wall Street. Investors inundated Bernie Madoff with calls requesting withdrawals of their funds. By December of 2008, Bernie Madoff realized that the end was imminent. Despite receiving withdrawal requests totaling $1.5 billion, his bank accounts held only $300 million. Bernie Madoff used his remaining $300 million to make payments to his most significant investors, such as Picower. In short order, Bernie Madoff confessed to his sons that his entire money management business was a Ponzi scheme. The sons reported Bernie Madoff to the FBI, who apprehended him the following day. In 2009, during the investigation into the Madoff Ponzi scheme, a trustee named Jeffry Picower was put in charge of recovering money lost in the scheme. The goal was to recover any profits made by investors and distribute the funds evenly among the victims of the Madoff Ponzi scheme. Picower was able to uncover that Jeffry Picower was the biggest beneficiary of the Madoff Ponzi scheme. Picower had received a staggering $7.2 billion from the scheme over the course of 3 decades. Jeffry Picower filed a lawsuit against Jeffry Picower to recover the $7.2 billion in funds obtained through the Ponzi. However, before Picower was able to recover any money, Picower was found dead at the bottom of his swimming pool.
Now, at 67 years old, Picower is mysteriously dead. His wife, Barbara, says she found him at the bottom of the swimming pool.
Many people questioned if Picower's death was a suicide, but investigators ultimately ruled that his death was due to drowning caused by a heart attack while swimming. Picower's massive fortune was then inherited by his wife, Barbara Picower. Jeffry Picower was able to recover $7.2 billion from Barbara Picower. Although this $7.2 billion had to be paid back, it is speculated that the Picower family still made billions of dollars by using the Madoff withdrawals to make other investments. Subscribe to our channel for more informative videos on the lives of infamous individuals in the business and finance realm. Our upcoming video will delve into the story behind Angelo Mozillo and his company, Countrywide.